The 2010's The Wolfman remake got a raw deal upon its release and is still considered a subpar horror film among most circles. This is mostly due to the film's many controversies, including the CGI butchering of Rick Baker's brilliant practical work, its last-minute change in directors from Mark Romanek, 1 Hour Photo, to Joe Johnston, The Rocketeer, its extended shooting schedule, inflated budget, and multiple reported versions. This all sounds to me like that familiar tale of the studio that couldn't make up its damn mind. Much like Wes Craven's werewolf film Cursed was famously railroaded and butchered by Harvey Weinstein, The Wolfman appears to have had a curse of its very own, only not of the lycanthropic variety. Anthony Hopkins is great here, playing a mix between his turn as Abraham Van Helsing in Coppola's Dracula and his iconic run as Hannibal Lecter. His performance as Del Toro's eccentric father is at times exuberantly menacing while disturbingly calm and controlled at others. Benicio del Toro is reported to have called this his dream project, having been a massive Wolfman fan his entire life. The actor had already procured a massive collection of Wolfman memorabilia over the years and was attached to this movie from the very beginning. He is solid in the role, but doesn't quite match the gleeful energy of Hopkins' lunacy. Emily Blunt is suitable for the material, but isn't given that much to work with character-wise. It was nice to see Danny Elfman back in the horror genre. Outside of various Tim Burton titles, his contributions to the world of horror had been scarce in the 2000s. The end result here is an excitingly lavish gothic score. Rick Baker delivers gruesome gore effects and an excellent Wolfman design. It was so refreshing to see an anthropomorphic werewolf again. The world needs more hairy protagonists, unafraid to wear pants and stand up for themselves. You know? The Wolfman 2010 pairs nicely with Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, both visually and sonically. They also share a similar voice and tone, given that they were both penned by screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker. I would also call this the official end to that gothic horror trilogy of the early 90s. It all started with Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, only to be followed by Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I believe the original theme was supposed to be literary horror. All entries were period pieces based on old horror fiction. So the original end to the trilogy was supposed to be the 1996 film Mary Riley, it being a rough adaptation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. However, due to the failure of that film, Sony then tried to say that director Mike Nichols' Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson, was the actual third entry in the trilogy, this completing the trifecta that is vampire, Frankenstein's monster, and werewolf. But I would argue that Wolfman 2010 is a much more appropriate end to that trilogy. It checks all the appropriate boxes, being both a period piece as well as matching the full spectrum of the first two films' gothic atmosphere. The Wolfman even continues the tradition of tragic endings, sharing its finale with not only Stoker's and Shelley's works, but also Cronenberg's The Fly and An American Werewolf in London.